On the morning of June 27, 2017, inside the world's largest shipping company, every screen went dark. At the same instant, phones, email, the systems that load and route 1 out of every 5 shipping containers on Earth, gone. Within hours, ports on 4 continents ground to a halt. But here's the strangest part. The company it hurt most wasn't even the target. This was NotPetya, the most destructive cyber attack in history. An estimated $10 billion in damage in a matter of days. A weapon aimed at one country that hit the entire world. And the thing that saved that shipping company from disappearing for good was a power cut in Ghana. To understand how, you have to start with the country it was actually built to destroy. NotPetya was not built for Maersk. It was built for Ukraine, and to hit an entire country at once. The attackers needed a back door that almost every Ukrainian business already had open. They found it in a piece of accounting software called M.E.Doc. If you did business in Ukraine, you almost certainly used it. It was the tax software, practically mandatory, which made it perfect. Instead of breaking into thousands of companies one by one, the attackers broke into the company that updates all of them at once. This is a supply chain attack. You don't attack the target. You poison something the target trusts and installs without thinking. They slip their code into a routine software update, and then they waited for the world to install it. On June 27th, the day before Ukraine's Constitution Day, the trap sprang. The poisoned update went out, and across Ukraine, machines began to fall. Banks, power companies, government ministries, the Chernobyl radiation monitors went offline. On screen, victims saw something they thought they recognized: a ransom note. Your files are encrypted. Send $300 in Bitcoin. It looked exactly like the ransomware the world had just learned to fear a month earlier. But this wasn't what it looked like. And the ransom note was a lie. Real ransomware wants your money. That means it has to be able to give your files back, or no one would ever pay. NotPetya couldn't give anything back. It wasn't built to lock your files. It was built to destroy them. Security researchers took it apart and found there was no way to recover anything. The key the ransom note promised never existed. This wasn't ransomware. It was a wiper wearing a ransomware costume. The Bitcoin demand was theater, cover, so the world would waste its first hours thinking it was dealing with criminals after money, instead of a government trying to burn a country down. If you watched our ransomware episode, you know the playbook this was pretending to be. This was that playbook, weaponized. And it was about to prove it couldn't be contained. Here's what made NotPetya so dangerous. It didn't need you to click anything. Once it was on a single machine inside a network, it spread on its own. It used a stolen tool called EternalBlue, the same leaked exploit behind WannaCry from our last episode, to jump from computer to computer. And it carried a second weapon, a credential stealer that scraped passwords out of memory and used them to log into everything else on the network legitimately. Patch one hole and it used the passwords. Change the passwords and it used the hole. It tore through flat company networks in minutes. And because the world's companies are all connected, a Ukrainian branch office, a shared VPN, one laptop, the weapon built for Ukraine crossed every border there is. Which brings us back to those dark screens at Maersk. Remember that shipping giant from the opening, the one that moves 1/5 of world trade? When NotPetya reached it, it didn't just take down a few computers. It wiped almost everything. 45,000 PCs, 4,000 servers, including something most people have never heard of, but every large company depends on: the domain controllers, the machines that hold the keys to the entire network. Maersk had about 150 of them, spread around the world, each backing the others up. NotPetya wiped all of them at once. Without a domain controller, a company of that size simply cannot be rebuilt. The backups backed up nothing. And then they got the one piece of luck that saved the company. In an office in Ghana, a single Maersk domain controller had gone offline during a power cut before the attack hit. It was disconnected from the network at exactly the right moment, which meant it was the only copy of Maersk's core network that NotPetya never touched. The entire recovery of one of the world's largest companies came down to one hard drive in West Africa. That happened to be unplugged. They flew the data to London, and then thousands of people rebuilt the company by hand. 45,000 machines in about 10 days. Work that would normally take 6 months. Maersk survived. Plenty of others just got the bill. Then the bills came in. The drug company, Merck, about $870 million. FedEx's European arm, roughly $400 million. The maker of Cadbury chocolate lost production from Tasmania to the United States. Add it all up, and the White House estimated around $10 billion in damage, the most expensive cyber attack ever recorded. And then came the second fight. When Merck filed its insurance claim, the insurers refused to pay, arguing NotPetya was an act of war, and war isn't covered. Merck fought it for years, over $1.4 billion, and the court sided with Merck. A cyber attack on a drug company wasn't the kind of war the exclusion meant. Because here's the thing, everyone had to reckon with. This was an act of war. It just didn't stay where the war was. The United States and United Kingdom governments formally blamed Russia's military, a unit known as sandworm. NotPetya was the moment the world learned that a cyber weapon doesn't respect the border it was aimed at. Aimed at Ukraine, it took down a shipping giant, a drug company, a chocolate maker, and thousands of businesses that had nothing to do with the fight. And almost all of the damage came down to 3 things. 1, an unpatched hole the world already had the fix for. 2, flat networks with no segmentation, so one machine meant all of them. 3, backups that were online when the wiper came through, so they died too. The one company that came back fast came back because of a copy. That happened to be unplugged. That's not a strategy. That's luck. If a weapon aimed at one country can do $10 billion of damage by accident, what does one aimed at everyone look like? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to see who actually builds weapons like this, we rank them in our 7 levels of hackers. NotPetya came from the top of that list. And next week, the AI everyone rushed to download left its database wide open. The chatbots you trust with your secrets, and what happens when they leak. When AI gets hacked, coming Tuesday.